Hello, I'm your friend Dylan, and if you need help with anything, just bump me. Hi, welcome back to Your Friend Who Likes Games, and thanks for being here today and checking out the show. Today I'm going to be talking about a video game called Angeline Era. It's a game that I didn't know anything about or the development. I'm going to be talking about a little bit about Melos Hantani, a person that I am slowly gaining some knowledge of and seems to be a very cool individual that is making very interesting video games. Angeline Era is one that I've heard of from a couple sources and decided to check out and played the demo a whole lot of before I picked it up. And this week was the appropriate time to give it a go, and I'm excited to share my thoughts. But before I do that, as always, I'm going to talk about some games for your wish list. This section of the show, For Your Wish List, I like to talk about a couple of games that you can think about playing, consider playing, add to your wish list, and just in general check out. And some recent discoveries as I've kind of dug into Angeline Era and, again, Melos Hantani, who has made some other games. They're very transparent about their process on Substack, at least. That was brought to my attention, and I'll give some credit here later. But I want to point out that they've made a couple other games called Anodyne, 1 and 2. They have very positive reviews on Steam, and the first one looks to be, and again, like a recent discovery here was, or that it is like a 2D action-adventure game. Seems to be kind of non-linear, or at least that's where some of the Steam descriptions are. Psychological, has some pixel graphics. It's top-down 2D. It looks to be surreal. It has like a classic 2D action-adventure look, but some of the screens and the scenery looks to be, again, very like Hantani, very kind of surreal and different. Yeah, I'm looking forward to playing these. I don't really know much about them other than like they made them as not a solo dev. Looks like a small collaboration. So names here are Melos Hantani and Marina Kataka. And then let's see, Anodyne 2, same thing. So Melos Hantani and Marina Kataka, analgesic, ANALGESIC Productions. That's who also made Angeline Era, the game I'm going to be focusing on today. But it looks like they've kind of taken the time to hone their craft a little bit, and I want to share some thoughts later about Hantani, who talked about their like new relationship to pressure and having like popularity in their games. Or I guess I could say a little more now. It's like the one thing I read on Substack from Hantani was that like his like new relationship with like how popular his games have become has, you know, obviously influenced the way that they make games. But it seems like Anodyne 1 and 2 was like the phase in which they were really making what they wanted to make without the pressure of expectation. They didn't really have any sort of like understanding of who the studio is at that point. So now when they make a new game like Angeline Era, there's again expectation to it, and Anodyne 1 and 2 just perhaps maybe had more freedom to it instead of, again, expectation. So like it looks like Anodyne 1 is a game that kind of exists in that top-down 2D action-adventure, slight puzzly era, or area, I should say. And Anodyne 2 actually goes into like PlayStation 1, I'd say PlayStation 1 3D, but they do dip back into the 2D dungeon area too. So like it has like the beautiful, like, or at least subjectively beautiful to what my liking has become of Angeline Era, has that art style, but then dips into that 2D that you come to know in Anodyne 1. So yeah, these look really exciting. I kept watching the trailers being like, wow, these look really, really good. And I'm excited to give them a go, hopefully in the near future after I get through Angeline Era, when I want more of what Analgesic Productions are throwing down. So yeah, not quite finished with Angeline Era yet in regards to this episode, and what I'll talk about is kind of the context would be like 10 hours in going forward today. So yeah, creators of Angeline Era have made other games both in 2013 and 2019, and those are both available on Steam. There is a bundle that's like $31, so I think when I go to play these, I'm going to pick that up and hopefully get through both. But yeah, that's Anodyne 1 and 2. If you're interested at all in Angeline Era, or you end up playing this game and want more of what they're thinking and making, this is definitely it. And the next game on the For Your Wishlist section today is one that I discovered is from the makers of Demon School. It's coming out in a month, February 19th, 2026, and it is by YSBRYD Games. The developer is simply named Brika, and the game is called Love Eternal. It's one I found on social media, and it looks bizarre. It has kind of a horror vibe to it, or a psychological horror vibe to it, where you are doing not only precision platforming to get from door to door, but when you end up in these doors, you get these really strange cutscenes. Like I'm watching the trailer right now, and you walk into a room that says like "Happy Birthday, Mom," and there's like 3 people waiting for you, and there's a table full of food, but like one of them is like a pig's head, and it just kind of looks grotesque. Looks to be having like an experimental narrative. It's something that it says in the Steam description here. It says like, wander a castle built of bitter memories in love eternal, a psychological horror platformer with devious trials and an unsettling experimental narrative. Find a way out or live in shelter forevermore. It looks weird. Like it looks like one that will have some like really unforgettable moments. Looks like one that will mess with your brain a little bit. Precision platforming looks familiar. It looks like it has a lot of like 2D gravity flipping, and then definitely has something to say. And the kind of why you're going through this area, this 2D platforming area, looks to be intriguing. Definitely something I'd like to play when I want to kind of be spooked or have some kind of brain flipping going on. It looks like it's going to be available for a lot of things too. It looks like it's listed as available for PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5. Looks like it's going to be available for Xbox, the Series, Nintendo Switch 1, it looks like, and then Steam, of course. So yeah, February 19th, Love Eternal, precision platforming, and some horror, psychological horror storytelling with that. So yeah, again, For Your Wish List, that's Anodyne 1 and 2 and Love Eternal. And when I come back, I'm going to talk about Angeline Era. See you in a few. All right, we're back to talk about Angeline Era, and boy, I've heard some good things about this game. I wanted to see what the kind of bump was all about. A lot of people that were playing this were talking about like when you attack in this game, you just bump into people, and while that sounded new, it also felt really familiar. Like I've kind of hinted at, this game really sits in the kind of PlayStation 1 era of things, and it has that vibe, it has that aesthetic, it's what it looks like, but it also, like, gameplay wise, is both incredibly simple and also feels complex. Like you move about these small areas that have enemies within them, and you have to face them to attack them. And when you bump into them, then you attack them, and then you also have a gun that will shoot upward. So I think I mentioned that earlier when I talked about this game in the For Your Wish List section, and playing a lot of the demo. It has that kind of balance where, like, if something is distant from you, and it does have a kind of top down. It's not. I wouldn't say it's a 3D game. So it's like top down, 3D rendered 2D, and has where you have a gun that like shoots upward. So if you have enemies that are essentially in front of your character or above your character, you can shoot at them, and it has like a nice little auto aim locking on if you're close enough. But if they're below you, you need to either bump them or get them ahead of you in the kind of perspective that the camera gives you. So I had definitely made a habit of playing the demo. I kept dipping back into it because I was curious of like the gameplay and the feel of it, and I really, really liked how it felt and looked. You, again, play in these like small arenas, essentially, that host enemies, and it's clear that you have to take out each enemy before you unlock the next place to go. And this game looks to be like just a beautiful use of assets. Like, I don't know how much of the game in regards to like art style was, kind of handpicked and created, or, found and placed and put to use, but it definitely has a vibe and a style to it that I am really connecting with. But I wasn't quite sure beyond like the gameplay and mechanic and presentation that the demo had, like what else was going to be in the game. And I watched some playthroughs, and I stumbled upon like a dreamlike sequence that you have in the game, and it looked kind of tedious and boring. And I'll say like playing the game, that's a minimal part of it, and a majority of the game is both either exploring the overworld of it, or you are going through various levels that have those small arenas one after another. But the physicality of it I found very like unique and engaging from the start. Like, yes, it's simple, but like I think those simple parameters create such a unique sense of combat where like a lot of different things can happen as you're engaging with enemies and their behavior. And the enemies have very clear like attacks. They do a couple things, and there will be a various combinations of them that all feel different and keep you very engaged and present in like what you're supposed to be doing to take them out. Definitely found the game to be challenging early. Like with the demo, there are various levels of difficulty, and I floated from like normal to low. And in the game while I'm playing, I find that low seems to be like the place to be. I just prefer it that way to not. And that was one kind of deterrent from the game itself in the demo, is that I noticed when you are going through a level, if you fail or you like lose all your health, you go back to the beginning and have to restart, and you start kind of memorizing each level and getting a feel for it. But yeah, it's kind of old school in that way and can be a little punishing, especially if you get pretty far in the level and then fail and come back. Like, those are times where I'm usually taking a break from the game and then coming back later. And I mentioned the kind of small room arena area. You kind of get one screen that you lock onto, and that's like your parameters of combat until you get through the enemies. It reminded me of Star of Providence. It's a game I played last year that almost had a similar structure, where like you would enter an arena and have like a second to look at the situation, see what enemies were there, and then react and stay alive and complete the combat before they got to you, or made you drained your energy or drained your health because of failure to take them out beforehand. And a lot of times those snapshots, I can't necessarily say that for Angeline Era. Like, most of the time they keep like the few enemies that are there, and they tell you right away like this is it. But there are some surprises here and there where you'll take out like one enemy and then like 7 enemies show up after that, which is kind of par for the course for this game. There's a couple like funny trolley moments in the game that didn't necessarily frustrate me. Some of them could be frustrating, I could see, but I think the humor and approach of this developer is clear, and therefore, like, when it happens, it's not a giant surprise. And one additional thought on the difficulty is that you can change it at any moment. So you can pause the game, and I think most moments, you could change from either normal to low or however you want it. I can't imagine anything above normal. I thought normal was hard, so there are, I think, 2 or 3 more difficulties beyond it. So for those of you that like a challenge in this kind of PlayStation 1 world, it's there for you. So I mentioned an overworld, and I think this part of the game, while I'll admittedly say is kind of tedious to like find new levels, it's also really, really cool. So I want to skip past that assessment and say, like, I really do enjoy it. There's this like big overworld that you navigate, and it kind of has like an isometric 3D art style to it, or an isometric, I'll say isometric art style. And you're kind of navigating this world that has like little assets of mountains and trees and gravel and hay and forest. And you, in the game, you have your like top like triangle button, Y button, has the ability to search for a secret, both like in the level and in the overworld. So you can, while you're navigating the overworld, you are looking for new levels to go to. So the game encourages you to look for, like, if a kind of gap is kind of obvious, or if a pattern in the ground looks a little different, give it a search. And it really takes like a second to like search that square tile, and if there's nothing there, it just shows up red. And if there is something there, your character like hops, and it's exciting because you know you found a secret, or just like, you know, a new level. And what creates a sense of kind of wonder in this game and exploration is that, like, they're very clear that, and quote from the game says, many levels are not mandatory, so explore elsewhere if one is giving you trouble. And that feels really cool, that you don't have to find all of the levels, and you will find enough to progress and move forward and kind of have this organic experience with the game. And I love that. I love that it's not just like a linear path or like a checklist of levels to find, and they're not telling you which ones you're missing, so like you don't feel like you're missing out. You just kind of explore the overworld, and then get just kind of look in corners and look in gaps, and then search for a secret, and then find a level. And then when you do find a level, it's exciting. There are times that I've kind of looked around overworlds and searched in corners that looked like they obviously should have some sort of level there, and then not finding them, and that can get kind of frustrating. But I've found the antidote to that is just kind of going somewhere else, like looking in a different place. There's like a big overworld that has many sections to it, and as you unlock and beat levels, you unlock new pathways, or like more access to different areas of the overworld. So you'll get through a level and a tree will disappear. You'll get through a level and a big rock formation will get out of the way. And then that is exciting, because then you know, like, oh, I get to go look for levels and explore an area that I haven't before. And the overworld music is really, really perfect and beautiful. I know Melos Hantani is a composer and is very serious about the music that he creates. And there's a podcast that I discovered recently called Bit Harmony. I'll talk a little bit more of in other stuff today, the other stuff section of the show. But they dig into Angeline Era, and kind of brought to my attention like just the specialness of the kind of hazy guitar that is behind this like dreamlike overworld music that just fits really nicely. And it's the same music each time, but it's a very long theme, so it's good for that kind of exploring, and when you're looking for new levels. And I will say that overworld exploration does continue to get more and more exciting. Like, there are different things that you can find in the overworld itself to, I'll say, change your navigation. I'm not going to spoil what they are, but there are many times in this game you feel like you're breaking it. Like you feel like you're doing something that the game doesn't want you to do, except it does. It has that like PlayStation 1 early video game, like, oh, I broke the like limitation of it, or I went somewhere where I wasn't supposed to. And I think the developers really want that to happen. They want, or they're very aware of like that feeling, and they have placed it into the game. I'm thinking of a particular like garden sequence in a level where I was just kind of like navigating it and noticed that there were like these hay bales and enemies that would pop out of them if you walk through them. And then there was one I walked through and I fell down, like I fell like into the map. And that is such a like automatic response and a jarring feeling of like, oh, that wasn't supposed to happen, or like, great, my game's broken. And really it was like a secret. Like it was supposed to happen. And if you move around blindly, like from one place to the other, you end up like popping out at another location, and then there's like a chest that was actually essential to complete the level. So that's cool. Like it has that, again, breaking the game feeling, but then you feel smart for navigating it successfully. I wanted to celebrate the fact that this game feels so unique and original, and imaginative. And again, discovering that they've made other games has got me excited for more of their thinking. Someone could look at this and say, yeah, a slap together a collection of assets, but like the way I think they're using them is so artistic, and the visual variety in this game really helps someone like me that needs novelty. And while again the combat has the same parameters for the most part throughout, it does evolve, and there are some things and like upgrades and different types of attacks that you can kind of have, or different types of navigation you can have later in the game. But like the visual variety of each level is really impressive. Like they go from like these outdoor plains to forests to apartment buildings to temples, and like the way that they communicate all of that in this kind of like top-down 3D way is not only creative but just fun to be in. It feels like a PS1 dream. And my biggest like overarching thoughts with this one is that like if it both feels like a game I've played before and a game I've never, like a game I missed. It feels familiar and also fresh and different, and it's quite an experience to be in, and it's like nothing I've ever played before. Like I can't compare this to anything else. It feels, again, completely original. I mentioned earlier the kind of like old school taking you back when you finish, or if you don't finish a level, or if you die in a level, you go back to the start. Can be punishing, but there are a couple of things that I was appreciative of. Like if there's some there are some puzzly levels where you have to find keys and open gates to get to certain areas of them. And if you have already opened the gate, if you die, the gate stays open. So like you don't have to re-navigate that. Like, so like in a sense, like your progress doesn't reset. It just like, it knows you died and gives you another chance. And there is food. So the way food works in this game is you eat it before your run. So at the beginning of each level, there's this like little mirror table where you kind of set your loadout and you decide whether or not you want to eat food. And a lot of the time, being that food is kind of rare in this game, you don't get it all the time, or you have to purchase it or make sure that you go find it from a more of a market or town level. But you'll have food in your inventory, and then at the mirror table, you can eat the food and set your loadout. And what the food, and what each food does, or food item does, is it essentially gives you like another or a second health bar on top of the one that you already have, or like a coat of armor, if you will. So if a level has given me difficulty and I didn't get through it, usually I'll eat food then, to make sure that I have enough. And some levels feel incredibly easy. Some of them feel particularly challenging, and all of them feel unique and memorable. And I'll say again, I'm only like 10 hours into this game, but it feels like such an epic journey because of that sort of visual variety and variety of level, variety of like, I don't want to say puzzle engagement, but variety of like situation, where you might be getting attacked by like 10 of these bugs that all shoot arrows, and then like having to take them out and dodge all of that. Like it's again like just different setups that have different types of enemies and different numbers of them. But once you figure out what certain enemies do, it does a good job teaching you or like introducing you to enemy types without overwhelming you. And then once you figure out kind of like what they do, the game will start to introduce like 4 of them at a time or 3 of them at a time. And then you know how they behave, so you know what to dodge, what to look for. And then while that's happening, they might introduce one more type of enemy that is giving you something new to worry about and dodge and get out of the way of. So, you're kind of in gameplay and combat, you're kind of looping through both you're like double jumping, you're bumping, and you're shooting, while kind of navigating both that triangle, and then your movement and positioning is all like super important, and then again really engaging with your playthrough. This was a cool note, and many times that I've taken screenshots. I mentioned that you can search for secrets in levels, and there are some very obvious like tile works or just areas that you search for a secret, and then your main character Tets will it says they feel divine and they take a moment to reflect. And man, PlayStation 1 screenshots. Like I've taken some screenshots, and when they take the moment to reflect, they will kind of look off into the distance or sit down and just be a part of that level and world, and the camera angle changes very like cinematically. It'll either like zoom really low to the ground and look out at the sky, or will just look at your character in a different way, and it feels so special because your camera angle is like locked into that top down perspective. So when you get that, it feels like it kind of reminded me of like when you get a cool cinematic in a PlayStation 1 game, and it made you kind of seeing it a different way, and like it gives it more of not only a movie-like quality, but a kind of like dream-like quality where you can, those are the things that you think about. So I obviously screenshotted all of those, and the coolest part of those kind of divine reflections are you are the player that stops them. So like you'll sit there and let it happen, and you'll hit a button, and then it'll prompt you to say like hold A to finish. So not only like you hit the button to move on, like when you really want to be done, you hold down your A button and then move on. And it was cool. The first time I realized that like I'm the one that ends it, I was like, no, let's sit here a moment and just like look around. And while the camera angle is stagnant, it's just different. It has the music that stays playing, and special. So yeah, if I think of it, I'll try to share some of those screenshots that I took of the game, but obviously want you to experience and enjoy them in your own way as well. But yeah, cool moments of many cool moments in this one. I mentioned too that with Melos Hantani being a composer very serious about the music is available a lot of places. I know it is available on Spotify. You can purchase it on Steam and have like copies of it, and it's really wonderful. If even if you're not interested in the game and you want some kind of like dreamy video game music, it works and is very good. I'm excited to listen to it beyond my play of it and kind of have it on my video game music playlist. and again, highly recommend Bit Harmony for they kind of dig a little deeper into it. And with the navigation of the overworld and finding new levels, before you can get into them, there's this kind of puzzly. It really, if you've played Keep Driving, it has this in it, and I really am struggling to like pinpoint. You'll know it when you see it. It's like Doom kind of perspective where you have like it's like first person 3D in that way, but you're like moving up one kind of cube at a time, and you are kind of navigating this little puzzle where there might be like a vine on the right, so you have to press the left on the D-pad. There might be a hole that you have to jump over, so you press up to jump over the hole. There's a vine overhead, so you have to hit down, and you have like a timer essentially that you have to do this kind of little puzzly gate, if you will, before the level. And it's implied that you're going through this like dark forest, and you might see like an enemy that shows up and you have to attack them at the right time. You might see this dude that gives you a quiz, and you got to answer the quiz answers right. And if you don't, you go back to the overworld and try again. Really charming little like way to just have to complete those before you enter a new level. And that's in the demo too. So like if you're interested in what that looks like, and you know, maybe you'll have better words than I do about that. But yeah, I thought that was just a fun way to get you into the level and appreciate another genre. It's like another genre of game where it has that like I said, first person Doom like perspective or dungeon crawly perspective. Kind of, if you're familiar with like the Vampire Crawlers game that's coming out, it's like that, except just going north. Yeah. So I mentioned, you know, combat and the way that there are different scenarios with enemies and the way that they, you know, either approach you, or the way that the area is set up with not only enemies, but like the area is also really important in that too. There is somewhere it makes more sense to like work smarter and not harder. I'm thinking of one that have like these kind of like charging goats that come after you, and you can try to take on all four of them, or like you can lure them into like a spike pit. Like there's a spike pit in the area, and like it took me a couple times to realize like, oh, the game is wanting me to like be smart about this and like actually look around and use the environment. Or there might be snipers that or things that like shoot at you, but you can get enemies to like get in the way of the fire, so then it like takes out the enemy without you having to shoot or bump them. Another, like, speaking of shooting and bumping, I forgot to mention that like you don't have like infinite ammo with your shooting, but you do have a way to reload, and it's very simple. So you can shoot for a little bit and then you'll run out of ammo, but then to reload you have to melee or bump enemies. So like 2 bumps will get you back to like full reload. So it gets you to balance out your gameplay almost rhythmically to, you know, shoot, and then bump, shoot, bump, and then it, like, again, like super fun and engaging to, I know I've said it a few times, but it's just really, really great to be in. I haven't looked up how long this game is, and I don't want to. I really hope and cross my fingers that I'll like stick with it and play a bit longer. I think it should be noted here that like it feels safe to explore in this game. Like it feels like it wants you to, and I think there's 2 types of player. I think there's folks that might want answers and a sort of like why each thing is, or each level and kind of setup is the way that it is. But this game is very abstract, and you just have to kind of trust it. And I do. I like the kind of freely and organically moving about the world and not like keeping track of progress necessarily, or just kind of like going where I land. And the game encourages you to do that, and it feels very freeing. And I've mentioned how good it feels to be just in this world. It has a good loop that wants you to keep exploring, keep finding levels, keep playing, and then going back to the overworld, finding more levels. And like, I'm really like, the plot is that you have to find these things called bicones that are going to help restore your land after the kind of angels have taken over. And while there is implied narrative in this game, it shows up every now and then. There's no like dialogue that you're having with people consistently. It really is just about kind of combat and exploring and that loop. And I like the sense of narrative here and there, but it's really just like bumping into characters in random levels and they say something bizarre. Taking a few screenshots, and I'd like to share some with you. Like just some things that are said within the game that can be kind of cryptic. Like I have one that says, the problem with angels is that they make it seem easy to be happy. Another says, a powerful ice cream trending among the youth. Some hate its many mouthfeels, but the wise respect it. There's like, I mean, simple as like you pause the game and it says, you have no other weapons. Your sword is lonely. So like the developer's voice is definitely coming through, and the things that like they want to say are there. It's important to sleep. Quote: it's important to sleep regularly. You gain new perspective and not go insane. And this one I really liked and was really resonant with me. It said, men destroy beauty because they're afraid they can't possess it. They'd sooner ruin what is good than witness it from afar. I'm going to read that one again. Men destroy beauty because they're afraid they can't possess it. They'd sooner ruin what is good than witness it from afar. That sort of like have to make it about ourselves. Like, oh my goodness. Like, yeah, like those kinds of things just kind of pop up in the game, and as you bump into people and talk to them, but it's not in the way at all. It only kind of enhances your wonder. And again, some people that don't necessarily like that, like questions without answers, there's a lot of those in this game, and that's kind of its vibe. And so it may be divisive there, but I'm eating it up. It's definitely for me. And in addition to like implied narrative, you often kind of run into these angels that are seemingly kind of like taking over, or they've descended into. I be honest, I haven't paid too much attention to the narrative or the story beats. I don't think it's the most important part of the game, but it seems like they're very greedy and like know that they're quote unquote better, or think they're better than humans. And kind of, I have a quote here that I pulled that says, if we have it all, why don't you humans behave that way? Why be limited? Why struggle? Why not just be so wealthy? And like that kind of stuff is some commentary for sure, and stuff that makes you think for sure. And I said I was going to give some credit later for kind of my realization that like Melos Hantani had been so transparent on not only Substack, but it seems like very open about their process and his process with making games. And I was reading a little bit this morning that I can't quite put into words myself now, but it seems like they are very reflective about not only their creative process, but their relationship to making, and not only to making, but like relationship to the consumption of their games. Very thoughtful and very like thorough. And I want to thank Internet Pal again, J. Isaac Gadiant, for bringing my attention to the fact that they're online and have some thoughts. And I want to share another quote from Hantani in regards to the kind of mystery and wonder of this game. Quote, I'm glad we can convey some of the mystery of our world through this game in some way, whether it be the way religion and spirituality hangs in the background of rational modern life, or how much of the world from people to places will always be unknown, despite all attempts organizing and calculating calculating all knowledge. In particular, people really love the sense of exploration and mystery. It's funny to think I almost forgot that the game has such a huge sense of mystery. I didn't revise the store page to focus on this point until around October with playtesters. It's a bit easy to forget this appeal when you're jumping around fixing up levels with a meta mindset. We also appreciate how some players have really enjoyed the storytelling style and how it's fairly hands-off, yet has a lot to dig in and reflect on after finishing. So yeah, like it feels so much bigger than 10 hours so far. Like my memories of this game, I've found, and you may have sensed at the beginning of this episode, I've kind of had a hard time talking about. Like it's not an easy game to like pinpoint what it is, other than like, you know, when I describe it to people, it's like a PS1 fever dream. Like it's got some just, I don't want to say strange, because it might be strange to some, but it's like very comforting to me. I like this world, and I like this kind of weird mysteriousness to it. And I like that there's not a pressure to have an understanding of it. Really. It's like, just be in it, just flow through it, explore, find things, go through more levels. And like the pressure's off in that way. Like I don't have to understand the game. It's not a very thinky game. It's a very flowy game. And I appreciate those more and more, that the layers are there if you want to look for them. But also, again, the game is very clear about like, you don't have to. It's not all necessary. Like not all the levels are necessary to get through. You may not even find all of them. And that is, as someone that is not a 100%er, I'm very okay with that. Now, this is not a spoiler, but a recommendation for someone that had played a while and not struggled, but like realized after the fact I did this, or I didn't like look into a part of this game that really helps you. There are times where you can go to bed and fall asleep. So anytime you find like a bed icon in a town or in a level, it will have like a little floating red moon above it that is very obvious that it's an icon to interact with, and you could go to sleep. And you end up in this like dreamlike house area that you navigate. And the first time I did, I could not figure out like how to get out of it. It wanted you to look around it, and I want to note and advise that like there's like a spot to the right that doesn't look like you can go through, but then you do, and you're like, oh, I was supposed to go this way. In that space, there is a place to upgrade. So you hit this, like, as you collect these, I forget what they call it. They're like little shards, essentially, that you're looking for. You can bump into this vase and then bump into a woman, and it will upgrade you. So your max HP goes up, and then the power in which you attack goes up. And I didn't do that like for a good 7 hours in the game until I realized that I could do it. And then I did it I went from like level 1 to level 9. And I realized how much easier the game was when I popped back into levels. So don't avoid those dreamlike areas. I just think they're kind of confusing. That's probably why I didn't end up navigating them the way I should have. And if I could advise you to make your experience a little easier, there you go. In that dreamlike sequence, upgrade so that you can have a better time. This might go without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think that this game is really, really good at feeding your curiosity. Like anytime I thought about something and I went like, oh, I wonder if, and usually there's an answer. Usually, like if you think about, and really like with that secret searching mechanic, like it'll tell you right away if there is a secret or not. So that there's one part of it, but like if you think you could go to the upper left, like it might be a good relationship with playtesters where like people tried to do something where like, hey, like, do you think about putting something in here? You know, I've had moments in levels where I wonder if I can go to the upper left of that, and then I bounce over or do something, and then it's like, oh, cool, like there is something over there to find, whether it be a small coin reward or You plant a plant by hitting the secret button, and then you get coins after that. Or there's it just feeds your curiosity in that way. That creates a flow that is like not even close to ever disrupted. The like only sort of disruption I have found with this game is like not finding new levels in the overworld. But again, I said my antidote to that is like go look somewhere else, and then more than likely there's a corner that you didn't check or a new area that you didn't know you had access to. And then you find more levels that way, and you just keep going. So again, curious of how long this game is, and I don't like, I obviously I like to play other games, and I probably I'm going to shortly, but like I want to keep coming back to this one and just being in it, knowing what it is, and knowing that each level is going to have visual variety, and each level is going to have something to discover, or some visual I didn't expect. And it's just really wonderful in that way. I wrote too that like this game feels like it's just asking you to be in it and not want you to get through it or beat it. Like it's not, like I said, it's not a checklist. It's not a list of accomplishments or that dopamine of like getting through. It's just like, here's some levels, you get through them, and then here's another level to get through. And it feels less like there's things I need to figure out, and more like there's just more exploring I need to do. And that creates presence, and I'm valuing more and more games that do that. And I think my last thought here is like I mentioned like the scale, how the scale of this game feels big, even in 10 hours. And 10 hours is a long time, but it obviously feels a lot bigger than 10 hours. And I know a lot of games can be, full arc and done in 10 hours, but I had a moment that I played. I found like nostalgia in the game, where I played a type of enemy, and then I thought to myself, oh wow, I remember when I was like first discovering what those enemies were. Like it had a feel of like a full circle moment, and I went, that was like not even a week ago. Like I played the demo for the first time like a week ago, and then it makes it feel like I've been on this big journey. And I can't remember the last time I've said that about a game. Like that had that special like full circle moment that is like kind of all encompassing within the game itself. This Angeline Era is a special game, and I think one that I'm going to be thinking about for a while, one that I'm going to be staying with as I listen to the soundtrack. Curious if I would ever, if I finish the game, if I would ever try it on a higher difficulty. Like I'm just happy to own it, and feels like one that I'll just like continue to like dip in and revisit, like especially knowing like a session could be finding a level, playing a quick level, and then being done. Like that's good stuff. It's I own it now, and it's there. Okay, so while again I found this game really hard and very difficult to talk about, hopefully that doesn't translate too painful in the audio here, but just kind of raw and real feelings of this game, and trying to describe the specialness of it is hard in words. I would say give it a shot in the demo if you're curious. The demo does a great job of showing you like really what the main gameplay is about, and then the only thing additional than the demo I would say is like just more. It's got more stuff, more levels, and then it has some more dialogue, but again doesn't get in the way. So that's Angeline Era, and maybe be talking about this game in the future too. Perhaps another episode if there's a lot more to see and say. Looking forward. But after a break, I'm going to come back and talk about other stuff, and then conclude with a discussion question that you can feel free to participate in. See you in a couple, and thanks. All right, welcome back, and to the other stuff section. A couple of things to bring to your attention. One, if you are a Star Wars fan, you already know. But I am quite excited for the, I think, April 9th, April 6th, one of those, in early April, Disney Plus is releasing a show called Maul, Shadow Lord, and we are getting some from the makers of Clone Wars. It's wild. I talked to a friend and we looked at the trailer and we both said it almost looked like live action in regards to lighting and the kind of enhancement of the animation that they have gotten over the years. And we're getting Darth Maul, and hinted at the trailer like the Emperor wants him dead. So it sounds like the Emperor's done with him and he's got his own kind of quest. And it more about Maul, I think, is something that, or Darth Maul, is something that a lot of Star Wars fans are either hungry for or like gladly accept, like me. And I've kind of been lacking in Star Wars content. I haven't really dug into anything in a while, and I think that is, the latest. I talked about the latest season of Visions, and there's a couple on there that really hit, and the other ones not so much for me personally. But yeah, I'm definitely hype around Maul, Shadow Lord. Looking forward to that. And lastly, there's a book that you can pre-order, and I'm looking forward to coming out in February, called Super Nintendo, the Game-Changing Company That Unlocked the Power of Play by Keza MacDonald. If you're interested in more about it, Chris Plant did a post-games episode in which featured the author of the book, and they talk a bit about Nintendo and some implications and some, things that you might find in the book, but I'm quite excited for that. I have to finish listening to the episode, but I was excited about it. I wanted to bring it to your all's attention if you hadn't been, and if you don't follow Post Games, there is I am a patron of the show, but there is a free version of the show on Spotify, and I believe wherever you can get your podcasts. So definitely check it out if you haven't yet. I know I talk about it a lot on this show, but it's a great source of just video game information, really awesome and thoughtful interviews. So yeah, that's other stuff. And my last little bit here, discussion question. So this is something I added at the end of last episode, and a kind of a new segment to conclude the show, just to keep the conversation going. You can feel free to answer by messaging me or commenting on YouTube or Spotify or wherever you are connecting with me. But the discussion question this time is, what video game era hits for you when an indie developer uses that style? And are there any specific games that come to mind? And I asked that because, Angeline Era is clearly sitting in that like PlayStation 1 era vibe. Obviously gameplay is dialed, but still feels pretty simple. But yeah, like it was hard to describe this episode, how much of it just hit for me. Like it had like that almost like a Final Fantasy look, but not, and like I said, familiar but not familiar. If I were to answer this question, I would say like Eastward again is a very special game to me, and that kind of like retro top-down pixel art style that they enhanced to make a new game and make something really special was cool. So yeah, again, discussion question: what video game era hits for you in particular when an indie developer uses that style? Because again, indies are really starting to go backwards and either use PlayStation 1, 2, 3 era graphics or Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis. Like it's all still alive and relevant and being kept alive through indies. So curious of your thoughts there. Thank you as always for listening to the show. If you're the first time here, thank you for checking it out. If you've been listening, thank you for continually listening. It's cool that anyone engages with this, and I'm very appreciative, and I'm going to say that at the end of every episode because I am. I really appreciate you checking it out and giving it a shot. So I hope you all take care. Let me know what you're playing, and if you would like to answer the discussion question, please feel free. If not, enjoy your week, your day, your month, your year, and we will catch you next time. Bye.